everybody, this week on ANN News Kids, we'll be talking about the US-China agreement, the Belarus-Poland migrants, New Delhi smog and coronavirus statistics. The country of the week is Libya, and Sudan once again was the first to guess it. Congratulations. The extra fun segment is all about the Sahara Desert, and in the Spiritual Career segment, we are talking to Gopal Veenalakanti, who is a HR professional at a corporation in Denmark. I really hope you enjoy. Don't forget to like, subscribe and share this video. Also comment below because we are trying to get to 1,000 subscribers by the end of the year. Thank you. The United States and China, the top two countries that emit the most carbon per year in the world and account for more than 40% of the world's annual carbon output, have decided that they will cooperate to reduce the world's carbon output. They announced this on Wednesday, and China said that they have decided this after 10 months of discussion. The UN and EU said that this is an important step, and Greenpeace said that they would have to take proper action. But everyone was very surprised that these two countries decided to cooperate. Thousands of people are stuck in the border of Belarus and Poland. They are battling freezing temperatures, a lack of food, and are in need of medical attention. Already a few have been found dead. Western members of the US Security Council have punished Belarus for its rising crisis over migrants stuck at the border of Poland and Belarus. India's Pollution Control Federal Board announced on Friday that people should be prepared to tackle New Delhi's worsening smog conditions because of a temperature drop and wind speeds. They announced that the air quality index and visibility hit 470 out of 500. So healthy people will be affected, and those with underlying conditions will be seriously impacted. Coronavirus cases around the world are still increasing. Countries around the world have also been experiencing a rise in coronavirus cases recently, and Germany, among other countries, has gone into lockdown for 3 weeks. The total coronavirus cases around the world are around 255 million, the total deaths are 5.1 million, and the total recoveries are around 230 million. The top 5 countries with the most coronavirus cases are USA, India, Brazil, UK, and Russia, and the top 5 countries with the most coronavirus deaths are USA, Brazil, India, Mexico, and Russia. Thank you. This week in the 36th Spiritual Career Edition, we are talking to Gopal Veenalakanti, who is a HR, human resources professional in a corporation in Denmark. His journey and advice is fantastic, and I really hope you enjoy and learn from him.
Well, first of all, Anya and Nitya, I think what you guys are doing is just fantastic and great inspiration for everyone your generation, huge inspiration for all of us. I don't know what I was doing at your age, but not even a fraction of what amazing things you're doing. So let me start by congratulating you and applauding you for that. Let me also say that, what a better way, what a fantastic way to use your time in COVID to take this virtual world and use it as an opportunity to learn and inspire. And really, growing up, I wish we had sort of the opportunity to speak to people from different walks of life, different faculties, because typically in India you were either an engineer, a doctor, or an accountant, right? That kind of, unfortunately, was a very boxed approach most of us grew up in. And this is such a brilliant way to say, hey, look, there's a geologist, there's someone doing HR, there's someone doing finance, there's someone. I even heard the interview where you interviewed Her Excellency, the High Commissioner of India to Mauritius, Mrs. Singla, I think she was called, and so on. So I think super inspiring. So I'm a fan. I'm definitely a subscriber. But I'll start with me. My name is Gopal Krishna. I come born and brought up in India. I'm an engineer, an electronics engineer by education. I didn't pursue my engineering along the way because I kind of felt that was not my calling. So at that point, I was kind of looking for something to do with my career in life. Wasn't sure. Happened to, by serendipity, stumble onto this company called Maersk, where I also met your father, and we're great friends. Didn't know what a shipping company, what it meant to work for a shipping company. Started off in logistics and supply chain, which had something to do with, I wouldn't say engineering, but I was still crunching some numbers and working and basically my role at the port in Mumbai. Nhava Sheva is one of the biggest throughput ports in India and in the country. Was to be at the container freight station, which is typically something that's close to the port, and you have cargo unloading, both imports and exports. So you get cargo in, and then you stuff them into containers, and then you send them over to ships, right? So my role was an operations role, kind of somewhere along the value chain. It was a brilliant way to get close to operations and really kind of learn stuff, not in a fancy air conditioned office, but really at in my company we use a Japanese term called gemba, which basically means where value is created. And honestly, that was where most of the value was created. Those were those colleagues, those blue collar associates, our labor supervisors. Those were the folks that were making Maersk, those big ships loaded and move the world. So very grateful for having very humble start in my career and then growing from then on. Long story short, along one of my roles within the company, I took a role in HR. At that point, Maersk was rolling out its values, and most companies have beliefs or value systems. A lot of them really, they live by them. Maersk did too. Maersk was a 100-year-old company who definitely wanted to be around another 100 years. When it was a small company, the owners knew everybody. We did have Mr. Maersk McKinney Moller, who was still alive in his kind of 90s. And long story short, he wanted the values that he learned from his father to be cascaded throughout the company, so everybody could live by a certain value system. And I was part of the team that rolled that out globally to about 100,000 employees, including whether they were truck drivers, whether they were shop floor workers, blue collar. Everybody got what it meant to work within a Maersk setup. Did a few roles in the company, had the pleasure of then moving from India to Copenhagen, where the company was headquartered. Did a few more roles in HR, one of them managing one of their graduate trainee programs, where you would take young students from university, move them into 3 or 4 different roles over a 2 years period of time, and then they would probably do a stint abroad. So at the end of that, I had a chance to move to China. So I went to Shanghai, where I did about 1.5 years, also in a human resources role, working with our colleagues in North Asia. It was such a fantastic experience, just being in a different culture, being in a culture that is equally, rich and old, and also a sizable population like India is, and learning what it meant, and just learning the pace at which things moved in China was just intriguing. And it's certainly a geography no company can afford to ignore. But yeah, I made some great friends and learned a lot. And also while I was continuing to speak to Mehul, your dad, got really inspired by his story of wanting to go to business school, and that inspired me to maybe take my GMAT and do the same. So really, I owe a lot of being at LBS to Mehul and him inspiring me to think about that. So anyway, at the end of my stint in China, went to business school, and I was at London Business School for 2 years. Extremely grateful to Sushma, who who's my wife, who was very kind to kind of hold a job and allow me to take a 2-year break and be jobless and kind of be a student all over again, which I think certainly a privilege, and something that I also learned, that whether learning happens in a big chunk of taking 2 years out, I think we constantly need to reinvent ourselves, take those pauses in our career. Either sometimes people burn out, other times people just need to say things are moving at such a fast pace that you need to plug out and say, well, what do I need to do in order to be relevant again? So that was a brilliant experience to be in such a fantastic school, one that had its own value systems in the right place. I currently work for a company called Cytiva, which is part of the Danaher Corporation. Cytiva is a life sciences organization. So we basically make equipment so pharmaceutical and biopharmaceutical companies do what they do best. So essentially, in the COVID fight, we have a very significant role to play. So we essentially make all the equipment that biomanufacturing companies, biopharma companies need to produce vaccines, to produce therapeutics, to produce drugs. So that could be a bioreactor, that could be a filtration column, that could be a chromatography column. So long story short, other than building their factory kind of building, anything inside it that is equipment related, we can kit them out start to finish. We do everything right from building a small reactor that can be used in a lab to a large factory setup, right? And I'll shut up now. I'm sure you have other questions, but broadly that's what I do. And I work in HR in this company, essentially helping leaders to attract the right talent, to retain talent, to lead people and help their careers develop. And honestly, as it always should have been, the power dynamic today is with the employee. It's not with the employer. Good employees today have the power to choose their volunteers. They choose to be in this company. They could be anywhere else. What do we as employers need to then do to be authentic, to really show them a career line of sight so that they know that they have a future in this company? They're feeling that they're being invested in. And honestly, as Steve Jobs says, you don't hire good people to tell them what to do. You hire them so that they can tell you what to do. And that's exactly sort of the philosophy or mantra we have. So that part of my job is to be part of helping leaders and as an HR business partner, that you understand the business and you understand people and you make that intersection come to life.
Yeah. Wow, that's quite a few things. Thank you so much for that.
Yeah, your journey was also incredible.
And what do you like most about what you do?
What do I like most about what I do? I think to start with, I would say the opportunity to impact business. I mean, I honestly think, yes, and you do that through people, because that's the one asset that that is difficult to retain if you cannot show them why they're here, right? I mean, you can buy a bioreactor, you can buy physical assets. Human beings are, I wouldn't even say assets. I mean, they are they are the lifeblood of an organization. They're the ones that make things happen. So what I like about my role is that it's not always a binary answer to most questions I face or my leaders I work with face. There's never a right or a wrong. There's always, it's a good judgment call based on of course what is compliant and legal, but everything else is, well, what would we do as a company? Who are we as an organization, right? And what's the right thing to do? I mean, strong companies have walked away from good business if it didn't feel right with its value system or its core belief systems. And therefore, what I like about my job is it's no 2 days are the same, and there's no straightforward answer to anything really. Everything depends. So which is fun.
Wow, that's great. And what is your advice to kids?
My advice is live your childhood. I mean, grow up, take, have fun. I mean, I think at any point, choose to be happy. I know I sound like a really old person when I say this, but and I recollect there was a Michael Moore documentary where he goes around different countries asking questions to teachers and he goes to Finland and he asks one of the mathematics teachers, what do you want your kids in your class to grow up to be? And in some countries the teacher said, I'm sure my kids will be the best engineers or the best doctors or whatever. And this Finnish teacher, who's a mathematician, said to Michael Moore, I want my kids to be happy. And at which point Michael Moore starts to tear up, saying, I've never heard a mathematics teacher say something as profound and as simple. So yeah, my advice to kids is, live your childhood. It's such a blessing to be at the stage you are. learn a lot, be curious, be inquisitive, take risks, try new things. I mean, and yeah, and there'll always be time to do all the boring stuff as grown-ups, but do stuff. And I think my advice would be, listen to your channel, see what different people are doing in their lives. Maybe as you grow up a little bit, try and do small internships, dabble here, do a week with a company, shadow someone's parent or your own, and figure out, ask questions about what they do. Because otherwise, for me growing up, what did my dad do? I know he was an engineer and he went to office. I never asked him what he did at work, right? And I wish I did. Like, when I grew up and when I tagged along with him, it just gave me so much more respect. So if he, as to what he did, or his friends I met, what they did. So yeah, I mean, the work piece is one thing, but yeah, maybe one advice, which honestly I even thought I should have used at when I was in business school, was to engage with your teachers, right? For us, I mean, I wish I had participated more in different things that are happening at school, including making the school a better place, right? So helping teachers, connecting with them. I mean, they have a wealth of knowledge, and we used to have open office hours with teachers in school, where they would have like an hour where you could go with questions or doubts you have. And oftentimes the teachers would always be sitting alone with a cup of coffee and no students with them. They would love it if you came with them with doubts, with questions, with hey, I read a book and this had this concept and I know it's out of syllabus, would you be open to have a conversation or explain it to me? And I think they would love it if you came with that sort of, and then they would put their effort to even go further. So my advice would be eternally curious all your life, but definitely as kids, and yeah, and you have access to so much information that it can be overwhelming, but I think it's your generation is the golden generation that's really going to change the course of the world. I think our generation, or the one before, definitely had a lot of baggage they carry. I think you guys are really going to change it around. I mean, so yeah, very bullish about what you guys will do for the future.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for this.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
Such a pleasure. I know I probably overspoke and took more time than you have, but really such a privilege to be on your channel. I wish you more success, more happiness, and just keep going, keep inspiring, and yeah. And I look forward to the next telecast. And yeah.
Have a nice day.
Take care. Bye. Bye.
Bye. La Libye est un pays d'Afrique du Nord. Sa capitale est Tripoli et sa population est de 6,9 millions d'habitants. La plupart de Libye est couverte en désert. La Libye est habitée depuis milliers d'années. Il y a une grande collection de peintures rupestres là-bas. La Libye possède la plus grande réserve prouvée de pétrole d'Afrique et le 9e au monde. Le roi Idriss a été destitué par le colonel Kadhafi, qui a régné jusqu'à sa mort en 2011. L'Église Magna, qui est un site de l'UNESCO, est l'une des plus belles structures de l'Empire romain et située en Libye. Cyrène est une ville de Libye et faisait partie de l'Empire grec depuis centaines d'années. La mer de sable Loubari est une mer rouge qui a la couleur des algues. C'est un lac profond et c'était créé par la pluie. Merci. The Sahara is a desert in Africa. It's the largest hot desert and the third largest desert in the world. It's got an area of 9.2 million kilometers squared, which is huge. And that is about the size of USA or China. The Sahara gets its name from the Arabic word Sahara, which means desert. There are many dinosaur fossils in the Sahara Desert. Emikusi volcano is the highest point of the Sahara Desert at 3,145 meters. The Sahara Desert used to be lush, full of plants and animals. But since 4,000 years, it has dried up because of a slight tilt of the Earth's orbit.